Welcome to another video from Cardboard East. My name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. Today I'm ranking my top 10 abstract strategy games from Asia. Number 10 is Soulaween from Play With Us Design, all the way from Taiwan. Now, the base game of Soulaween is not that impressive. There are quite a few games that do have this mechanic of you dropping a token and then everything next to you or adjacent to you flips over. This is a variant of Othello. Where this gets special though is one, the production of this game, and two, the asymmetrical play of the game. In Soulaween, you will be playing as death gods or death students, playing, and you'll be able to score a certain way. Maybe if you get certain tokens to form like a check mark or a square or a line. Be as you may, there are different ways to score in this game. Now, there are also different ways for you to flip. Some people normally flip if I go in the center, and then people orthogonally adjacent to me will flip over. So if you're looking at a phone, if you put your piece in the 5, well, then the 2, 8, and 4, and 6 will flip over. But there are other gods that will do all the odd numbers of 1, 3, 7, and 9 would flip over. So you'll have to approach this very differently depending on which god or student you are and which one you're playing against. Now, I did mention the production of this game, and you get some really chunky wooden pieces in this game. And it's really refreshing to open up a box to see these really thick, chunky pieces. And then you have this nice, I forget what it's actually called, but it's this nice cloth that you use to clean your glasses, and that's the material of the board. But this design didn't have to go into such great detail for development in this game, but I'm really glad they did. Soulaween is a game that I reviewed many years ago, and it still holds up today as one of my favorite abstract strategy games. Number 9, Euro. Euro comes all the way from Thailand, and I gotta say that it's really spectacular. I was very blown away. Essentially, this is just checkers, but on each piece are 3 different colors, and those are the squares that piece can move on. Now, unlike checkers who are trying to capture all your opponent's pieces, you're simply trying to get your piece to the end zone, trying to get them to the other side of the board, and that's a lot trickier than it sounds. But what's really fun is the nice twist of the aspect of having the color on the pieces and knowing that's where you can move your pieces to. And your opponent has that information as well. So it's a game of perfect information. Now, I gotta say, as a 2-player abstract strategy games go, this one is very unique and has a fantastic table presence. And as colorful as it is, there is a flip side version that it is colorblind friendly with some very subtle images placed on there if you're playing with someone who has difficulty with colors. But my favorite thing about Euro is that it definitely pops on the table. Every single time I play this, not typically a game night, because game night we're usually playing multiple planes, but ever I'm meeting up with a friend, if we're going to a coffee shop or to a game store and we're playing Euro, someone inevitably stops by and asks what game we're playing, because Euro is just gorgeous on the table. Number 8 is Pueblo from Plate Games. Now, Pueblo is a very old game, and it's been around for quite a while, but it still holds up. And this new edition from Plate Games is quite spectacular, and it's probably the best version that you could probably find. Now, you could probably find the older version of it if you really hunt for it, but why do that when you have this one from Korea? Now, I have to say that this game has the added benefit of being small and portable, and the box itself is the board. You simply take it out here, and then this is where you're playing on, and here is your scoreboard. Now, I heard a lot of people complain about these because they're worried about, well, what if this gets damaged, and then the board will get damaged? Well, as it happened, this did get damaged on its way to me. But as I found out that here, this little damage here doesn't affect the game at all, and it is totally fine. There are other versions of this out there, but this plate version has really nice quality components I'm really happy with, and it has the expansion in there. Now, I don't like the auction, but I do like the little tiles that you can put on there that kind of abstract the game and make it a little bit more difficult by making the area smaller. Essentially, in Pueblo, you are trying to hide your pieces. There's a little chief that goes around the board, and every time he stops on a space, he'll look at what he sees and scores what he sees. And you want to have the lowest score. Now, fortunately for you, that there are, in addition to your pieces, there are these neutral pieces here that you can place down and try and mask and hide your color pieces between the chief, the neutral block, and then yours. So you're constantly trying to find new ways to block the chief's view, trying to make sure that they see your opponent's pieces, and trying to push your opponent's pieces out to the outside where they can't be hidden, and that'll just score more and more points. Pueblo is a game that holds up extremely well over the years, and I constantly recommend it. Recommend it for 2, 3, and for 4 players. And for portability, you're not going to find better than this plate version of Pueblo. Coming in at number 7 is the highest rated of all the games that are on this list on BGG, and that's heXentafl. Now, heXentafl, it comes from Canary Abstract, which is a publisher in Japan. And they just recently ran a Kickstarter, and all their games are this shape. So they are perfect for the backpack. And you can just tell by looking at them that they have this nice, very clean aesthetic that you kind of want in your abstract games. Not to mention that all of these are quite light. And if you were so inclined, you could probably take a few Canary Abstract games and put them in one box, therefore taking more of them with you as you travel. So that's a win-win. Now, heXentafl is a variant off of an older game called Tafel, which is most popularly known as Viking chess, where one player is in the center of the board trying to get to the outside corners, and another player surrounds them, so it's a tower defense game. Now, the big twist here is that heXentafl, well, it has hexes, so it is hexagons instead of squares, and it really, really changes the game up. Not to mention that it also comes in 2 different versions of the game, for a bigger board and a smaller board, for a more robust game and a smaller, quick, tastier game that you could have maybe on your lunch break. But something that I love about this is that it takes an old classic game, gives it a modern twist, and it does it in a very clean method. Canary Abstract, it really impressed me with this series because all the games are very easy to learn, look fantastic, and can fit inside your backpack. And that's just a triple win right there. And heXentafl is easily one of the best in their series. Number 6 is passtally. Passtally, because you're passing and tallying up your scores. Now, passtally is unique in this list in that it is the only game that doesn't have perfect information, that there is still some hidden information in the game, and it's the only one on this list that has that. But man, oh man, this is a fantastic game. It didn't sell as well as I think it should have in the States, but it is quite easy to pick up, and it got picked up by Pandasaurus Games. Now, normally I recommend passtally to people who really love logistics and train games. Not necessarily the pick up and deliver, but the logistics of creating routes, because that's essentially what you're doing in this game. You're placing these rupee-shaped pieces onto the board and creating a route that goes from one edge of the board around all the way to the other. Ideally, you want to get your tiles as high as possible because the height will give you points. So if you cross over a tile on the first floor, you'll get 1 point, a tile on the second floor, 2 points, a tile on the third floor, 3 points, and because of the twisty nature of the game, you can have a route hit a rupee, a same tile, once, twice, or even 3 times. But what makes this game brutal is that why go through the whole ordeal of building your own route when you could just steal your opponent's? And by doing that, it can be an absolutely vicious game. And it's a vicious game that I absolutely adore. I have been playing passtally now for years, and I don't think I'm ever going to stop anytime soon. Square on Sale is my number 5. And if you've never heard of this game, then we have not been gaming together. Because if you game with me, you definitely would have played this game by now. What I love most about Square on Sale is that it is unlike any other game I've ever played. Not just on this table, that I've ever played. Imagine Reversi, or Othello, if you will. But you can place your piece anywhere you want to. Even a space that's already been played on. Then add that extra twist of by putting your piece there, you're actually creating a little micro auction that's based with time. And anyone can outbid you, but they have to do so within 2 turns, otherwise it flips. And that little aspect of making time something that triggers in the game, meaning that this is going to happen here, then this is going to happen here, then this is going to happen there, makes this decision space in this game truly unique. And once you see the matrix and you can see how this piece will go here, it'll trigger the board to change this one and that for this one is going to happen next, and this is going to trigger. And by seeing that matrix, it is just absolutely amazing. Now, I have never won a game of Square on Sale, but I still love introducing this game to new players and playing this and losing. And I can't say, now what other way is there to recommend a game by there's a game that you love losing, and that is Square on Sale. Now, I do wish that there were a 2-player variant for this game, and I think if I tried hard enough, I could probably come up with one. But it plays 3 to 4 very smoothly, and it's a game that I continue to still enjoy. Number 4 is another game from Canary Abstract, and that is Make Muster. Now, one of the charms of Make Muster is that it feels a little bit like Go. And the goal of the game is to, well, unlike getting area control, you're just trying to get all your pieces in one giant cluster. But you do that by having the same thing that Go kind of does, where you're kind of creating these little imaginary walls for your players to kind of push against. Your opponents are trying to push against, and you're constantly having this back and forth. And maybe you have this little battle here, and then another battle here emerges. Now, on your turn, you're going to take one of your pieces and place it on the board in a way that it's not adjacent to any of your other pieces. If you can't do that, well, then you're allowed to move one of your pieces. Now, be careful though, because by moving your piece, you can create a space that will force you to place a token there on your next turn, or even better, force your opponent to place one of their pieces there. Again, outdoes itself because the game fits inside this binding box. The board is double-sided, so you can play a more robust game, or you can play a smaller version of the game. And I gotta say that the smaller version of the game is just very bite-sized. It's over lickety-split, but the grander sized board feels enormous, and there's so much going on, and that's easily my favorite way to play Make Muster. Number 3, Slyde. Now, Slyde is the best out of the Canary Abstract game series, and I gotta say that I was really blown away by this one. Now, there was another one that I played called Trike, and I didn't really care for it that much because it felt like once you play it once, then there was no replay value. Whereas Slyde, on the other hand, I could play again and again and again. And to be fair, I kind of go back and forth between which ones I like more, between Slyde or Make Muster. I like Make Muster because it's so fast to set up, because you just put the board down and you're ready to go. Whereas Slyde, you're kind of have to spend maybe a minute or 2 minutes putting this whole board together. In Slyde, one player is going to be white, one player is going to be black. And if you're white, you're going to push a black block one direction, and the place you pushed it from, you're going to put a little cylinder like gray token there. Now the black player is going to do the same thing. They're going to take a black block and push it, and then they're going to place their gray cylinder on top of the block they just pushed. Why are they doing all this pushing? Well, that's because the players are trying to create the largest singular cluster in the game. And if they can do that, they win. And there is a lot of fascinating strategy that goes along with it. There's this idea of sometimes you want to take control of the center and then push your opponent to all the opposite sides. You have like this nice center strategy. Sometimes you're taking over the middle and then pushing them on different sides. I've played it multiple ways, and it is a truly fascinating game. Now, if you're not into area control, well then maybe this game isn't for you. But if you're looking for clean, abstract games that really go well beyond their weight, then this is a game that just I strongly recommend you check out, especially if you love trying to play abstract games that are a little abstract. Now, just like Canary Abstract does in their previous games in their series, well, one, the game has this nice, very clean look to it. Number 2 is that the board is double-sided, once again. Now, this one is the most drastic out of the three here in this list because the small board is one thing, but the big board just feels, it really feels enormous. And it just feels like every little decision you make, while you can't see all the ripples yet, you will feel them later on in the game. And just experiencing that time and time again, this makes me want to play this game many, many more times in the future, and I don't see myself ever getting tired of it. This feels in a way like this old, like a Game Boy game almost, but it's so clean that it just makes you want to play it again and again and again, because the rule is really simple. Push a block, drop a cylinder. Push a block, drop a cylinder. That's it. But the amount of depth that you have on your turn, where you can see everything, man, oh man, this is a game that I strongly recommend you checking out. Number two, Pathogen. Now, Pathogen comes from Taiwan, and I gotta say that this one, designed by a college student who skipped school just to come to Essen, Pathogen is a fantastic game. Now, this is a variant of an older game called TAC, and if you are into abstract games, you know TAC. I know you do. And Pathogen, I think, is the gamer version of that. Now, TAC is a two-player game, and Pathogen is a two-player game, and you're both trying to do the same thing. You're trying to create a bridge of your pieces that go from one side of the board to the other, or this side all the way to this side. And if you can do that, you win. In Pathogen, you can also build a house on all four quadrants of the board, and then in that case, you win. I've never seen that. I've only seen that happen once. But what makes Pathogen this next level up, well, are two things. One is the board. The board is black and white, but unlike checkers where I only move on black, I only move on white, you have two pieces. One piece only moves on black, and it's as if the white squares did not exist for this player. And then you have another piece which only moves on the white squares, and it's as if the black squares don't exist. And it's really fascinating how you could flip over the boards, have a modular board, so it's just different every time. But it can create these weird bottlenecks that you weren't expecting, where in order to get from here to here, you have to go this other weird route just to get there because, well, the board is just shaped that way. And by using this black piece and this white piece to work together to create that bridge of components is so beautifully brutal. I absolutely love that aspect of the game. The second thing is that, well, there's off this little board here off to the side, and you move the totem on this little board of fate, and then your piece has to mirror that movement. So you just can't move your pieces any way you want to. You're limited by this fate board and the totem that's there. And because this little fate board exists, it gives you an opportunity to mess with your opponent by limiting how they move and by limiting where they move. And it's really, really fascinating. And I strongly recommend you check this out because it's going to hurt your brain in ways that you never thought possible. And then last but not least is that final little twist of that there is an asymmetrical game. That one player is the virus, the plague, and one is the plague doctor. So there are different little twists of how you can play the game. The virus can spread things far more quickly, whereas the doctor can clean things a little bit more quickly. And it's really interesting to see how the plague begins really strong at the beginning of the game, whereas the doctor gets stronger and stronger over the course of the game because they have more actions. Now, I've often seen people complain that the doctor is not as strong as, well, as the plague. And you know what? I gotta say that they're wrong. They're just not experienced enough. Because the doctor has this amazing move of locking the fate board and forcing the plague to have a very limited turn. And as a plague doctor, you're gonna have to do that time and time and time again. And that is your key to success of trying to keep the pathogen in place. And this is a game that I just continuously enjoy time and time again. And I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend you try this out, because if there is a gamer version of an abstract, is the best way I can describe it, it's Pathogen, and you owe it to yourself to play this game. Now we're at number one, and you're probably asking yourself, Jay, where's shogi, where's shangqi, Chinese chess? And they didn't appear on this list. and because I'm looking for modern games. But to be fair, if I had to pick the best abstract game from Asia, there's no other choice. There's no other choice because it has to be Go. And if you haven't played Go yet, then man, oh man, woo, you haven't lived. Look at the size of this board. It is monstrously huge. There are more possible games of Go than there are molecules in the universe. That just blows my mind. Now, Go has been solved by AI. An AI player has defeated the best human player. But that doesn't mean that it's a flawed game, because Go is an incredibly simple game that just delivers so much. On your turn, you're simply just taking one of these stones and then placing them out onto one of the vertices of the board. Now, by the end of the game, you're trying to make sure that you have control of the most area of the game. And I gotta say that this game is a game of ups and downs, of losing and winning. It's just so fascinating because when you have a board this size, you're going to have all these little skirmishes all throughout the course of the game, and it all begins to tell the story. Now, a single game of Go can last for over an hour, and it's an endeavor, and it's a huge commitment, but I promise you, it's going to be unlike anything else that you've ever seen or experienced, and I strongly recommend you try it out. It's not just a matter of how to play, because the rules are quite simple. It's a matter of how to play well, by understanding where to place is far more important than how you place it. Because the rules, again, are quite simple, but the depth of each decision ripples throughout the entire course of the game. And one piece could bring life in one corner and death for the rest of the board, and vice versa. And these are my top 10 favorite abstract strategy games from Asia. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see here, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to see this channel grow even more, please consider joining my Patreon. I'm going to put a link up here to a video that I think you'll enjoy. See you there. Woo. Now, a lot of people have been asking me how I feel about tariffs, and I got to tell you, on a scale of 1 to 10, they suck.